Hello and welcome to the Cosmic Intelligence Agency's global transmission. I'm Agent 34, Helen Puckey, tuning in from Dja Dja Wurrung country in Victoria, Australia. Today we have a very special Halloween transmission from two Melbourne-based agents who will be peering into the charts of the US election. It is Halloween 2020 and it's the spookiest day of the spookiest of years. There is a spooky full moon tomorrow, followed by a Mercury station on the day of the US election. And we all know for sure that the world will be standing still on November the 3rd. Or as Freddie Mercury would say, we will be hanging on the edges of our seats. So there are many astrologers at the moment predicting the outcomes of this election. Unlike the polls that currently seem to favour Biden, I'm seeing a swing from astrologers towards a Trump win. Now, it's not that the astrologers necessarily want to see Trump win, it's just that the astrology seems to be lining up in his favour. Just give me a second. So we saw a similar thing in 2016 to what we are seeing today, and that is that the polls seem to be favouring Biden. Are we facing the same situation with this election? Can we expect delayed results? These are the kinds of things that we'll be looking at today during this Halloween special, while the veil between the spiritual and physical dimensions is weakened and spiritual activity is at its height. So in honouring Halloween, we thought it would be a good idea to bring an extra element of magic into this reading today, to see what the tarot and other divinatory cards might have to say, which leads me to our two agent astrologers with us today. If you have ever been to any CIA event in Victoria or Australia, you will probably already know Agent 66, Sara Gilbert, and 29, Deborah James. Welcome, ladies. So not only are Deb and Sara professional consulting astrologers, they also teach at the CIA's resident Melbourne Get Smart Astro group, and have been teaching astrology to Melburnians since 2016. So welcome to the show, ladies. Sara, I'll just introduce you briefly. You've been an astrologer for many moons, many years. And you also work a lot with tarot, palmistry, and the Kabbalah, the Tree of Life. You have an astrology school near Frankston in Melbourne called Life Spirit Connections. So Sara, perhaps just say hello to everybody and tell us how you will be proceeding with your reading today and how you will be using the divinatory cards, and what cards will you be using?
All right, thank you, Helen. I'm going to work with the personal charts of Biden and Trump, because I'm not a mundane astrologer. I don't look at events usually, but I'm going to look at their personal charts, which is what I'm familiar with. I'll look at two sorts of charts. I'll start with one that brings their personality and the events that are likely to happen to them forward. This is called Solar Arc Directions, and it's where we move the sun 1 degree for every day they've been alive for. So that's the first two charts I'm going to look at. And then I'm going to look at the transits for the day of the election, the middle of the day of the election, around their charts. But at the end of each chart, because I don't think anything I've seen is absolutely, wow, this guy's going to win. We're going to do some cards, both Deb and myself. I'm going to use the Tarot of Dreams, which are the cards I read with all the time, these ones. They're very much based on the Rider-Waite cards, so people should be able to understand what's going on when we go through those. I'm not sure which. I think Deb's going to use some of her oracle cards probably. I'm not sure. And
Okay.
how I use tarot in my reading, tarot and astrology together in my readings, I usually do one or the other, but where there's some with tarot where there's more detail needed, I can offer some astrology to provide that detail. And with the astrology where the detail is unclear, like we have today, then we can use the tarot to give us a more definitive type of answer. So hope that makes sense.
Excellent. Thank you. We really look forward to that today. I'm very excited about this moment. And now we will introduce Deborah James, Deb Aura, Agent 29 of the CIA. Now, Deborah is also an artist and an illustrator, and she has been working on producing a deck of medicine cards. Deb, when can we expect to see your medicine cards on the market? And tell us, please, a little bit about the medicine cards and what inspired them.
Okay, well, in 2013, I sat in a sacred circle with Mother Ayahuasca plant, which is an amazing healing. I found it amazingly healing anyway, changed my life. And I participated in many ceremonies over the next 3 to 4 years, which completely changed the way I felt in my body. And once, I think when you take the ayahuasca, she's a living plant. So she stays within you. And she comes up in dreams and she presents herself to me as an entity, which then speaks to me and downloads sort of messages. I know it sounds weird, but that's how it happens. And when I went to Egypt with Agent 33 in 2017, I had an amazing experience in the King's Chamber in the pyramid. And she came to me again then, and I had lots of messages saying I must start sharing my art, start doing a lot of different things. So I did that. And then I went back this year with Agent 33 again to Egypt and had some more extreme downloads at the Temple of Edfu and Seti, where I saw we were allowed to go into a specific tomb which had not been opened or seen for years. And around the edges of this particular room were what I could only say as ceremonial photographs or pictures etched into the rooms, indicating that they were using acacia and also lotus as a way of changing their healing modalities as well. So that then the cards had to be birthed. And because we were the last plane out of Cairo and then went straight into lockdown and have been here for months, that's how they came about. I just was obsessed with getting them being birthed. So they're now about to be sent to the printer. So we're just working out how much that is, hopefully within the next month or so. So, yeah.
Okay. So will we be seeing any samples of the cards today?
I could show you some at the end, yeah.
Okay, excellent. Okay, well then let's move on and get started with the reading. I think for starters, Deb will present an astro narrative of the transits as they are for the day of the election. Deb, I'll hand it over to you and I'll let you.
Are you going to show the chart so that while I'm talking you can use your mouse over the chart?
Sure, I'll just bring up the chart. Just give me a second.
I've chosen the chart of the election day and 11 p.m. at night because that particular chart is when they would legally announce the winner if there was a winner on the day, but we don't think there will be. But anyway,
yeah, I mean, I don't think that generally we may have an idea on that night, but going by the last election, it's really hard to say. So I'll just share my screen and bring the chart up. Now, I'm not sure if this is going to share, if your screens will still be visible, but we'll give it a go. Guess what? Guess what? I can't share my screen. The share screen button's gone.
Okay.
Okay, that's not good. Sorry, everyone. Have you got a share screen option? I have no share screen button.
Yeah, I've got it.
Here we go. It's popped back in. Sorry, guys. Sorry, okay.
So what I normally do on a retreat is take everyone on a journey. But what I like to do with people's charts is I journey with the chart. So I look at the chart particularly and see what archetypes come to speak with me. And I will look at the chart of the day for the election and see, and I've written a little narrative, a little story of the day. So here's the chart. Just let me change that. And get that. Okay, are we ready, everybody? Once upon a time, there was a day where the kings do battle for the ultimate prize, to lead the people for the next 4 years. To understand the energy of the day, we look to the sky gods to see what they say. The sun shining down in Scorpio is very secretive and will not tell us anything that is really going on behind the scenes. He loves a bit of drama. To find out more, he wants us both to look at Mars and Pluto for some clues. The Lord of the Underworld in Capricorn is not interested in helping and points directly to Saturn in Capricorn, the boss. Saturn is very businesslike in his approach and very direct about responsibility and integrity that is required to understand the energy of this day. He says that we need to learn from the past before he will tell us the rules. Looking towards the south node of the moon, the archer stands with his arrow ready to be fired. He has lots of opinions and wants us to follow his arrow straight to Jupiter, who will teach us what we need to know. A more restrained Jupiter in Capricorn declares that much research and study is required to fully understand what today is about. Again, he points to Saturn for more instruction. Aries, Mars, interjects, yelling, "What about me? You're supposed to ask me. It's all about what I want. It's all about me. I need everyone to understand that if I don't get what I want, there'll be hell to pay." Chiron, also in Aries, moving backwards, tries to stop the egoic tirade, but struggles as Mars is too far away to hear him now. Uranus in Taurus is rumbling and muttering in the background, building in frustration about the lack of attention being paid to his earthly needs. The North Node and Moon, both in Gemini, are arguing about which one should speak about what possible future there is for the day. Both of them end up pointing at Mercury in Libra for clarification. Mercury has been very busy going back and forth over lots of information, and he wants to paint a pretty picture. Venus steps in with a beautiful smile and gazes longingly at Neptune. Sitting in the lotus position between the past and the future, Neptune in Pisces takes a deep breath and opens his eyes. Everyone waits for his wise words. You all thought I was meditating. I have been listening to your illusions and delusions of grandeur. Ours is not to know what the day will bring. Everyone and everything is part of the Great One. We are all on a mystical journey together. Today is but one day in an ocean of days to come. Knowing what this day will bring is not the focus. Raising our vibrations to live into the days that come is our sacred contract. Our destiny is to explain and expand our consciousness to fully embrace everything that the universe provides. Jupiter nods to acknowledge the truth in the statement and nods to Saturn again. The boss has the last word. The number of the day is 9. Whoever becomes the king of this day will end a long outdated way of being. The cycle of one is about to begin again. The foundations of this new government must have honesty, integrity, and a clear vision to put into place a world that works for everyone and everything, as I will be going into Aquarius very soon, and the age will begin. Now, that doesn't give us much clarity, does it?
Excellent. Thank you, Deb. What a great narrative.
It does give you a sort of flavour of the polarity that we live in this 3D reality.
Okay, so we've set the scene. Sara, shall we move into looking at the charts of the candidates?
Let's see if it will let me share my screen. Here we are.
So Sara will be looking at the natal charts, the transits, which we just looked at, and the solar arc directions. Okay.
Yes. So I'm going to start with the solar arc directions. And if you look at this chart, on the inner ring, we have Joe Biden's natal chart. And on the outer ring, we have where all his planets have moved to at the current time. And I've set mine for the middle of the day on the election. So, but like Deb, I don't believe we will get to an answer by the end of the day. So let's start with what we're looking for in this kind of a chart are connections between the inner ring and the outer ring. Oops, go back. Yes, so connections between the inner ring here and this outer ring. And the first one that comes to mind, we use very small orbs for this. So the numbers of the degrees have to be within 30 minutes of each other for it to occur immediately. And if they're within 1 degree, it's going to happen within the next year. It's going to show that sort of thing. So he's got a very close connection between his Chiron in the 9th house in Leo and Saturn. And Saturn's at 29 degrees. And when a planet is at 29 degrees or 0 degrees in these kind of charts, it's very significant. So I'm going to look at that one first. His Chiron is about a wound to his self-expression, creativity, and not feeling special. And it's a wound that's occurred from his education and possibly to do with foreign countries and ethics and morals. And we do know that he had a bit of an issue with his education in his bios and things, with him putting up things that weren't actually quite correct. So it sort of lines up with that quite well. We can see also that Uranus here is at 21 and it's opposite his directed ascendant, which is at 22, 26. So that is showing an opposition that's going between the two of those, which the interpretation for that is to be judged wrongly, misjudged, and maybe be irritable and lose your temper and not like the sort of things that you're being told. Okay, if we go through here to Mercury, we can see that is making a square to all of that. And that will mean it will be about connections with other people. And Mercury is in the 12th house. Now we can see that Joe Biden has a very big 12th house, and it's all in Scorpio. So there's lots of secrets going on with him. There's lots of things that are happening behind the scenes, not out in front. And that square from Mercury may reveal some of those things as we're going on. We can also see that there is a square going on from his MC, which is where he is in the world, and his very intimate IC. They are exactly squaring the nodes on this particular day. And that's really about difficult interests between the person and other people, and needing to get a balance between family and career. So those are the main, oh, and I've missed this other important one, sorry. We've got the MC, so this point here has moved round to here during his life, and it's now going to be opposite Saturn towards the end of the year. And that is about struggling with difficulties in order to achieve. So that doesn't look to be a terribly positive chart. So perhaps what we need to do is to pull out some tarot cards and see what the tarot feels about where Joe Biden is at the moment. Not so much about whether he's going to win or not, but where is he, and is he in a very successful position in general? So Deb, do you want to start off and pull a few cards? Which cards are you going to use?
I've been pulling cards while you've been talking.
Yeah.
I'm using the Game of Thrones tarot pack because
really?
I figure we're in the Game of Thrones right now, and winter is coming. So I've picked, and whilst you were talking, the card that flew out of the deck that I had to pick up off the floor was the Flayed Man.
Ooh.
And I picked 3 cards, and the other one was the Battle of the Bastards. And the other one was the 10 of coin. So you've got to think that there's money involved, and that there's a battle that perhaps he won't win. Because anyone who knows the Battle of the Bastards knows that there needs to be someone coming from behind to understand how to save you. And I don't think that Joe Biden has that with this particular card.
Very good.
So you pick one now. That was fun.
Okay, so I'll pick out of fanning out my deck. I'll pick that one and that one. Okay, so mine's got the 9 of Wands here, which sort of can be about not being sure you've got the energy to go on and to complete the task ahead. But I have also got the 9 of Coins, which is feeling very proud of yourself and feeling that you've done very well with your achievements. But then finally, I've got the Knight of the Knight of Cups, which is Pisces and Neptune, and a lot of uncertainty. So, sort of, was there a dream that he was trying to get to, and how likely is he to get to that dream? So I'm not sure those cards really tell us anything other than what the chart was already telling us. It doesn't say one way or the other, does it? What's going on there?
Well, we'll have a look at what Donald has to say now.
All right, let's go on to Donald. So here we are. He's got less connections in his chart, but he's got some massive connections. So the first one is he has his ascendant in his natal chart, which is shown on the outside because the ring is for the natal chart. And he has 29 degrees there to start with. and Uranus is coming round, and within the next year it is going to be exactly conjunct his ascendant. And what that generally tells us is that he's going to make a major new start in life. And he's possibly going to relocate to another country. That doesn't seem very likely, but that it can have all sorts of meanings, but it's really about throwing things up in the air and really causing an upset in some way. Now, he's been having the nodes go over his ascendant in the last 2 years. So there's already been a lot of upset going on for him. He has actually got his own nodes are almost exactly, well, in a year's time, they are going to be exactly squared by Mercury in his first house. So it's almost like he's going to become a teacher or a mentor to other people in some way. And it's very much about exchanging ideas and not doing things the same way as what they've been done before. So there is a sextile. We don't usually look at 2-sign connections, but there is also a sextile going on there to what did I put that to? That's going on to those nodes as well. So it's a trine and a sextile, and it's coming from Pluto, who is all about transformation and digging out, getting what's new and getting rid of what needs to get rid of. So it looks like he's going to be on a bit of a crusade to try and change the world, basically, is what I see from that. So I don't know whether that means he's going to be successful in doing what he's come here to do, because our chart only tells us what the opportunities are. It doesn't tell us how we're going to deal with that. So what do you get, Deb, for that from are you going to use the Game of Thrones again?
Yep. I'm using the Game of Thrones, and I've picked some interesting cards. First of all, the Wheel of Fortune came up.
Yep.
Which is, as we know, all the elements and everything turned into, and at one point you can be up and the next point you can be down. So that again is nebulous. The next card I picked was the Three of Cups, which is usually a celebration. So that could be a celebration in that he wins. And the final card I picked was the Queen of Dragons. Ooh. Now that's interesting because Khaleesi rides the dragon, and Donald Trump also rides the dragon in as much that he was born on an eclipse. So, and we say that people who are born on an eclipse, I was born on an eclipse, ride the dragon. So things can be up or down, but they usually never give up. So let's see. Biden might win, but he just takes him to court and goes and burns everyone down. I mean, you remember what Khaleesi did? She just went no and burnt the whole city down. So that's interesting to pull that card.
Yeah. And it sort of aligns with the chart very, with all the upheaval coming from that Uranus and the nodes. All right, let's see what I get. Well, I've got the Nine of Swords, which means a lot of worries and a lot of mental gyrations going on. But I've got the Eight of Coins, which is being very good at what you do, sometimes trying to do something different and becoming very good at that different thing. And remember, his chart said he was going to be doing something, starting a new cycle. And finally, I've got the Five of Wands, which is about competition. you know, lots of arguments and conflicts and things going on, which I think we can quite easily expect. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that seems to work, doesn't it? So let's go back and look at the ones with the chart around them now.
So now you're going to be looking at the transits around the solar arc and the natal? Yeah.
No, I'm only going to concentrate on the natal chart with the transits. So it's going to show what the impact of the day is going to be having on that person from their natal chart. All right. So let's put, why won't it change? There we are. So here's Joe Biden's chart. I'm going to find my sheet. All right, now this is a very busy chart, but as you can see, we've got all that natal stuff going on undercover. Now there are two big things I'm looking at in both the charts. I'm looking at Mercury retrograde to see if that's because Mercury stations retrograde on the day of the election.
Yes.
Yes, and there is a square to his natal Jupiter from that Mercury. So Mercury is going to uncover something about his or sort of put out something about his Jupiter. And yeah, where did I put this? All right, so that Jupiter in Cancer could indicate some kind of misuse of power, and with being in Cancer, it could relate to family. So it could be something coming out about Joe Biden's family. And
Sara, I just want to add in there that Jupiter is pretty much conjunct the natal Mercury retrograde of the US chart. So that's another interesting point to add there.
Oh, okay. As I say, I didn't look at the American chart because I chose to do it this way.
Yeah, I might throw some things in as I see them.
Oh, that would be wonderful. That's really good, Helen. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Now he does have the sun conjunct his Mars. Pretty. It's within 1 degree. With transits, 1 degree is generally the orb we use. So, and with the sun on his there, it means he can start new projects very well, but it also means he's likely to get quite angry and get involved in disputes and arguments and even accidents, because Mars with the sun can sometimes be too much energy. So that looks a little bit negative. The other thing I was going to look at was the Jupiter-Pluto conjunction, which will be exact on the 13th of November after the election. And it's been going on all year. This is the third and final conjunction, and it's all about the misuse of power and eradicating and changing situations where power is being used unjustly. And you can see that for him, that's making a quincunx to his north node and a quincunx to Mercury, and that Mercury is making a sextile. So in other words, it's making a yod between the two charts. And so the outer chart, we've got the node being the key point. So this point here is where it's going to be about what is the purpose, and it's in the house of relationships, and it's about information. So it's possibly about what are we going to be told about relationships. So is that going to have an effect on him, his success in the chart? We also have Neptune down here that is opposite his MC, and on that very secretive part of himself, which is in Neptune, which is ruled by Neptune. So it's almost like there are secrets going on, and maybe some of that is going to come out. So there's a lot of things here about deception, and I think with Neptune involved, it can go any way. It can be him, secrets about him, or him revealing secrets about other people. But it's not very definite either way, is it? But there are some quite negative sort of connotations there. You can't see, you would expect to, he's got Venus going through his 10th house, but it doesn't connect to anything in his natal chart other than just going through that area. And that we've already talked about the Jupiter, Venus and Jupiter being the sort of benefics in traditional astrology. And Mars is in his 4th house, and Saturn is with Jupiter in the 2nd house. So that might indicate that some of those things that need to be changed are to do with money and assets and so on. So it's a pretty big chart.
Yeah.
And it looks like there's something pretty significant.
And there has been a lot of talk in some media about his son and things coming out about money and what have you that none of the mainstream media is actually putting out. So that's very interesting too, that there's that hidden aspect to things that he's trying to hide, which are maybe family orientated down near in the 4th house. So yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it struck me how the charts seem to tell that story quite strongly, but how that can affect the election when it's not really being put out to the general public is very uncertain. And being so soon, a lot of people have already voted before this has happened. So, you know, sort of it shows you why there's more likely to be some kind of schmozzle afterwards if they're coming out afterwards. So I think we definitely need some cards for this one, Deb.
Okay, well, I've pulled a couple of cards whilst you've been talking, and one of them is Little Finger.
Oh,
Little Finger.
Little Finger, and Little Finger in the Game of Thrones was always playing one side off against another. Yeah. And you could never tell whether he was telling the truth or not, but he was always wanting to cover his own patch, if you like. So that
is very interesting. And in the charts that I was looking at Biden's midpoints, and all I could see were health issues. And I can't help but think that if there's anything being covered up, it's Biden's health issues. Really, okay. I feel like he has a lot of weak sort of Mars, Neptune kind of midpoint activations that, yeah, just make me think the guy's not, I mean, he's not well anyway. I mean, even just if you read his Wikipedia profile, I mean, I don't know anything really about Trump and Biden as an Australian, but if you just read his Wikipedia profile, the guy has serious health issues. And I can't imagine how this much stress of an election would be impacting those health issues. So
well, that relates to that Neptune on his IC too, doesn't it?
I think so. I think
Neptune is so active in this whole thing. It really is. I think sometimes we overlook Neptune, but I really think it's a major player in this game today.
Absolutely.
What did you pick, Sarah?
Oh, I haven't done mine yet, have I? All right, so that's 1, that's 2, and that's 3. That's really strange. Okay, I've got the 8 of Wands, which looks like he's going to be successful. But I've got the 10 of Wands, which looks like it's going to make him very sick, or, you know, it's going to have a really bad effect on his health. And then I've got the Pisces card again, the Knight of Wands, the Neptune. So it's emphasizing that Neptune, but it's not giving us a very clear answer. The Game of Thrones ones seem to be very appropriate for this
they do, don't they?
Situation. It's funny, Deb, because when I thought about other things to use, I also thought that the Game of Thrones would be really good, and I was hoping that would be what you were going to use. All right, so let's have a look at Trump's chart. Now, his Trump chart to me is enormous, because on election day, he's having his nodal return, which happens every 27.5 years. And it means the nodes in the sky are exactly over the nodes in his chart. It's going to be sort of, you would say it would be happening at the moment. It's within 1 degree. So that means a new cycle for him, really starting again, and doing something that he really wants to do. Now, Donald's got a very interesting chart, because if you look at the inner bit only, you can see that it's all in 1/2. And I did some work on this recently for a talk for the CIA, and we call that dragon karma, because the nodes are holding contained all of 1/2 of the chart. And it actually happened between February and February and May this year, and it's going to happen again for 3 months from December the 31st, and then it happens again a little bit at the beginning of the following year. But it's on the opposite side to, it's containing the other side. So the moon is with the south node in the sky with these charts, whereas it's, oh sorry, I'm getting mixed up there. He had the eclipse with his sun, and it's working out with the moon in the one that's going to happen in December. So it's like his chart is very much with the chart of the times, because it's got that one-sided thing, and then we've got that one-sided thing over 3 years. So
can I just add in there too, Sara, that in the US chart that I've been looking at, which is the 3:03 AM chart recommended by Agent 33, Olga Morales, she uses the US charts a lot more than any of us. And that's the chart that she uses. And in that chart, Trump's nodes fall exactly on the ascendant of that chart, which is a Gemini ascendant. So that's really, really compelling as well. So sorry, go on.
Don't be sorry, that's excellent information. The Mercury and the Venus, so Mercury Retrograde is making a square to his Venus in the 11th house. So it's about he won't want to compromise, and he'll actually feel good and feel that he's in the right place, and he's not likely to give ground. That's telling us. And that Mercury also sextiles his Mars, which, although it's in the 12th house, is right on his ascendant. And, you know, that's that combative spirit that we see so much with Donald Trump. That's where it comes from. So he's going to have a lot to say with Mercury being in the 3rd house. He's going to be up on his high horse. But the thing that I found really intriguing was that his sun is actually making a quincunx to Jupiter and Pluto, who are in the 5th house of children. And if you believe the underground stories, Donald Trump is supposed to be doing things to stop things that are a misuse of power happening to children. I thought, how real is astrology? Now, how real that is, I believe it's true, but a lot of people will say it's a conspiracy theory and it's a lot of balderdash. But let's wait and see what comes out. But the chart is validating that his son in the 10th house, he's trying to do things as a leader to change things. Okay.
And I've just picked the Sun card as you were talking. And it's the Dragon. So yeah. I think the nodes will be telling us a lot about that. I also picked another card for him, which is the Death card, but it's Arya. Arya Stark, who kills the Night King. So she's the hero of the Game of Thrones.
Yeah.
So make of that what you will. This is really fun.
And what's the last one?
The last one is the World.
Okay, the end.
Westeros. So America.
Yeah.
We'll see.
Something I didn't put on that chart and didn't mention because it's a little bit out of order, but Neptune is squaring those nodes too. So we've got that Neptunian issue coming in there again. So there's no clear answer. I'm just going to cut this and pick 3 this time and do something slightly.
I also picked a card for the election using the O cards, and the O cards are a set of cards that I use when I really can't work out what the answer is. And I was shuffling here in the background just a minute ago, and I picked it in the O cards. You pick one card, which is a word card, and another card, which is a picture card. So there's hundreds of thousands of ways that they can come out. Anyway, this is the card that I've picked. And it's the word is pain. And then you've got 3 judges. So
Ooh.
For the election, I think it's going to come down to judges.
Wow.
Judges.
It'll be determined by judges.
All right, let's see these 3
or
cards.
Or court, or something to do with legalities, that other thing that they do, the college thing that they do.
The college vote, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I picked the first card. I got the Sun too, Deb.
Isn't that amazing?
And the second one is the 7 of coins. So tossing up whether to keep going the way we are.
Yeah.
And the third one is it's going to be a hard road one, which we had I got for Biden as well. So okay. I think it's definitely telling us that there's going to be a disputed result of some sort would tend to be what...
I think we can pretty much guarantee a disputed result. I think if there's one thing that we can say for sure, I think there's going to be delays and there's going to be a disputed result for sure.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So Neptune is also squaring the ascendant of the US chart. It's squaring Donald Trump nodes. It's opposing Biden's nodes. What is it? It's not really making things any clearer for us though. So, overall.
Can you put up the ephemeris chart that you were looking at?
Well, I don't want to scare people with the ephemeris chart. It might just be a bit overwhelming. Should I bring up the ephemeris chart? I can.
Let's do it. It's a different way for people to understand, to look at the actual transits of the day on the American chart. So it's on the chart of America. And again, it's the one that Agent 33 uses.
Okay, can you see that?
Yep.
Okay, so probably should have shown this chart as a normal chart first, but anyway, so this is a 90-degree graphic ephemeris, which shows the, so you've got the degrees here. The first 30 degrees represent the cardinal planets. The next 30 degrees to 60 degrees is the fixed, and then the mutable. The planets for the chart are plotted on the right side here. So that's the US chart planets plotted on the 90-degree dial. And on this side here, you have the transits from the outer planets. So for example, you can see here that Chiron crosses Mercury and Jupiter. So Chiron crossed Mercury in January the 27th, 2020, and then it crossed Jupiter at these points here. When I say cross, I mean a square in this instance. So if we go to the election, which should be around the 3rd of November there, we can see that there is a Jupiter-Chiron square, which is part of a story that's been going on all year. And we also have a Jupiter. So if we go down here to the transits of Jupiter, Jupiter is also crossing Chiron here. So we've got a double whammy Jupiter-Chiron squares going on. Obviously, there's a health crisis in the US, that's obvious, but I think, you know, it's also a health crisis for the whole world. So the health crisis for the US is not just about COVID, let's say.
Yeah, no.
So also on that day, we have the nodes crossing the US ascendant chart. So not crossing, sorry, conjuncting the US ascendant chart. So that's bringing that into focus as well. So it's very much a nodes, Neptune story going on. And also what we don't see in this graph, because it's only showing the outer planets, is the squares happening with Mercury. I may just move to this chart. That one, sorry. Can you see this chart, or do I need to reshare my screen?
No, we can share the screen.
Can you see?
Yes.
Oh, okay. So here we've got the US chart in the center, the natal chart in the center. And we have the election day in the middle wheel. And I have got Donald Trump up at the moment. I can shift it to Biden. But you can see, sorry guys, too, I'm using a whole sign chart. I'm not sure what you guys use. But we can see the lineup here of the US ascendant for the 3:03 a.m. chart, 20 degrees Gemini, lining up with the nodes and the moon on the day, as well as Trump's sun and nodes.
Mm.
Now, it doesn't necessarily mean that he's going to win, really, because it could just be he's just being, you know, off onto the next phase of his life, of which will be a continued story, obviously, with who he is. But, you know, what is there really that is that enough to say that this is his win? This is what I want to know. I mean, this is powerful stuff and major alignments with the US as a nation, but who's to say? Who's more likely to win? A nodal conjunction or a nodal square?
Conjunction.
Yeah. The conjunction's pretty powerful.
Mm.
Yeah. So we can see here Mercury Retrograde and Mercury Station, and they're in square. What do we have to say about the Mercury Station and square?
Well,
and also the Mars squares the Neptune.
there's a lot of talk.
Jupiter opposition with Mercury, with the natal Mercury as well. Yeah, there's a lot of talking, that's for sure.
A lot of big talking going on.
Mm.
And I think the Neptune there is like the media, our illusion, delusion of what's true and what's not true, who's telling the truth, who's not telling the truth. We know that Donald loves to, you know, say COVID is over, it'll be over after next week. I mean, that's silly. But he's a lot more positive than Joe Biden. Joe Biden's, oh, it's going to be a long winter. Trump's like, oh, it'll be the best year ever. So again, it's very Mercury. Which way do I go? We're at a crossroads, big time crossroads.
Okay, well, I'll stop sharing that chart unless you want to see this chart with Biden as well.
That's only fair.
Yeah, we should see both.
I'll just bring that up. Maybe you guys, are you going to be drawing more cards?
Oh, little finger came up again. Come on. Come on, the magician. He's very much telling us, he's whispering in our ears, because he used to have whispers. He used to set things aflight so that people thought things were going a certain way and then they weren't. So yeah, it's very much Mercury square Mercury. What have you got?
It's about being unhappy. Who's going to be unhappy? Are we all going to be unhappy?
Everyone's going to be unhappy, I think, no matter which way it goes. People are going to be really unhappy.
So, well, one thing that I looking at that US chart, which I just find fascinating, you know, this Jupiter Chiron story that's been playing out, and having, you know, Jupiter in the second house, of stellium in the second house of the US chart, and opposing the Capricorn, you know, everything that's been going on in the Capricorn skies and the Pluto opposition. So the US chart has a natal Mercury Pluto opposition. It's coming up to a Pluto return. I really, you know, this healing crisis and these Jupiter Chiron aspects are pointing me towards the issues of consumerism and the environment, and needing to transform the way that the US does business. I think I was reading somewhere that the carbon footprint of the average American is like 3 times that of anywhere else on the planet. So, you know, and obviously the environment itself is a contentious issue. Some people don't even believe that the climate crisis exists. Personally, I think it does. I mean, it's obvious. Just look at the way we treat the world and the planet. Like, we're definitely in if not a climate crisis, a moral issue relationship with the earth. And this Jupiter Chiron story, I think, you know, it's showing on the surface as a COVID crisis or a national health crisis, but there's deeper stuff going on here, much, much deeper stuff. And this core wound, Chiron is also at the midpoint of Sun and Pluto in the US chart. So there's something about the gaining of power and the wound of the country that are related, the wounding and the position of power. It's, yeah,
it's a dis-ease in humanity, really, and it's a dis-ease.
And just, you know, and just the rampant consumerism that affects the whole world, especially now, you know, in the age of the internet. The way that these messages are transmitted globally now are just, the influence of the US is, you know, it's always had a huge influence on the world, but I think right now we're seeing that magnified hugely. And the wounds of America are being magnified and projected to the rest of the world. We're all feeling it. Yeah, it's really intense. So whoever's going to win, this is the major issue of the day. How does America, the whole world needs to transform the way that we do business, the way that we produce things, the way that we package things, and the impact that has on the environment needs to be a major issue that's addressed in this next season, political season. It really does.
It's that whole thing about globalization. We all we've taken our eyes off where things are coming from, and we've outsourced everything. And, you know, Australia suffered with that, with not being able to get masks and hand sanitizer to start with, because it was all outsourced. And, you know, we just have been worrying about the dollar. You know, where can we get it done the cheapest, not what's going to be the overall effect on the country.
Exactly. So, yeah, it's a change in mindset. And also, I know when we were looking at the chart a couple of days ago, Deb, we noticed that the prominence of Neptune too, particularly in that
down the bottom
in that graphic chart, in the graphic chart squaring the ascendant. And we were talking about Hollywood, because Hollywood is really, Neptune can be, you know, can be a symbol for Hollywood as well, for glamour, for the surface, you know, how things look on the surface. And this is a very Hollywood and very, US thing is, you know, the US is all about appearances, you know, and I don't mean to be criticize the US there, but, you know, I used to have an American housemate, and she said in their education system, so much emphasis was put on presentation and speaking. So this is a real thing with the Americans, is how they present themselves and how they communicate with the world. And we don't have that in Australia. We never had that emphasis on speech. And I think that really comes out in that US chart as well. And with Neptune crossing the ascendant, you know, how is America projecting itself, and how will it continue to project itself in the future? And
how we see America.
And how we see America. How we see America. Exactly. So, how are we going for time? We've been about an hour now.
I just pulled an O card for what as you were speaking, and I got the word card is men. Right?
Okay.
Men.
And the picture card is a clown.
What a note to end on, Deb.
I know, right. So we're dealing with clowns.
Dealing with clowns.
But it's a big show. I mean, Donald is a reality TV star, and we're all living in a reality TV show, it seems.
It really does feel like that. And, you know, maybe if Trump doesn't get in, that will just be his next thing. He'll just go, maybe that's what we're seeing in the chart, that he's going to take on the reality TV world and continue his superstardom through Hollywood. There you go. But to be honest, I just don't understand how either of them can win personally, but there's no one else. So one of them has to win.
I saw something recently with Bernadette Brady where she was looking at the secondary progressed lunar phases, and she actually looked at both of them are in their balsamic, which is, you know, the one before the new cycle. And she said, you know, it looks like neither of them should be there. So that's interesting.
Right. And actually on that note, I recall too that I think the US chart's progressed moon is in Virgo, which is with the natal Neptune. So that's interesting as well, bringing the element of Neptune into it again.
Yeah, swimming.
Yeah. So they're both in a balsamic phase. Sorry, balsamic, did you say? Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
So they're both about, they're both ready to start a new phase, which fits with Donald Trump's other stuff, but not necessarily with Joe Biden.
I just feel that even if Biden got in, I don't think his health's gonna stand up. And then there's the, there's a lot of talk about Camilla possibly rising to power by the next election, which we did look at her chart a few weeks ago, I think, with Agent 33 on her webinar, and there were definitely indicators there for Camilla's rise. So, that's another thing to think about. Maybe the election will have an outcome, but it might not last the term.
That's what Bernadette Brady, she also looked at her. I can't remember which. I think she was in the disseminating phase in hers. She was, coming up. Yeah.
All right. Well, did we want to draw any more cards before we round it up?
The last card I picked is the Chariot, which is the dragon. So again, that indicates the nodal axis, and it also indicates that whatever happens, a lot of stuff's going to be burned to the ground before there can be a rebuild. Like the dragon takes no friends.
Well, that's the thing, isn't it? And I think by the time the US goes through its Pluto return, when Pluto goes into Aquarius, Neptune would have dissolved everything, just breaking it all down. Uranus will be shaking things up, and Pluto will be the start of a rebuild. But gee, there needs to be some huge changes, and changes here as well. Yeah, mental changes.
Well, it's really, people would argue about the age of Aquarius, and some aspects of Aquarius you could argue have been around for a while with technology and things. But as far as the humanity and equal treatment for people, I mean, the way the world's treated refugees, how do we keep them out? Sort of when they've been caused by other countries, wars and all the rest of it. There's no thought for other people who are human beings like we are. Sort of it's just horrific, really, isn't it? How far we are away from that Aquarian principle, and when it comes to the world and humanity. So I tend to agree that we're not there yet, and maybe this change will be the start of it. But yeah, we've got so far to go.
Yeah, and a lot of changing habits, which is probably more, it takes time to change habits, human habits, consumer habits, shopping habits, changing the way that we deliver our groceries so that they're not, smothered in plastic. Everything. Every week I put out that recycle bin, and it's just, it's just full. And I try and reduce everything, and it's still just so much of it. And I just can't believe that I have no choice. I have no choice but to buy this stuff because I need this stuff. So these are the sort of things that I think really need to change, and we will see that change because there's no other way forward. We have to go backwards to go forwards, and this is happening with the Mercury retrogrades in the natal chart and the station. It's looking backwards. Well, the US chart has a Mercury retrograde, so it's always looking back. It's always looking at the fathers, the forefathers, the past and the values of the past. But we need to they need to kind of shift that, and now's the time, really. And there was something else I wanted to say about Uranus in Taurus, in terms of the values, and living the change of the values, integrating them into our daily habits, and the way that we consume. So sorry, the environment's obviously a big issue for me, but What did you draw there, Deb?
While you were just talking, I picked the Night King. So, and the Night King just, was the land of the ice zombies. So he killed everybody. So we have to resurrect ourselves, but he could resurrect the dead. So what we need to do is have a complete transformation in the way we recycle, we redo everything. I mean, this has been the year of the retrograde. This has been, if this year doesn't wake us up, what will? Seriously.
I got the 10 of coins, which is about, money and inheritance, but it can also be, what do you pass on to your children, and what is the world passing on to the world's children is the thing there, isn't it? Sort of, it's and it's the patriarchy, the materialism, the globalism is all represented in that card too, but we've got to think about what it's passing on if we're just looking at greed and money.
And also, Neptune is very prominent right now, and it seems to be, obfuscating and blurring everything. But at the same time, America is a nation of, like, there is a lot of strong spirituality in America, strong Christian culture. And I can't help too but think that, when is that compassion going to come forward? When are those sort of Christian values or those spiritual values of Neptune and compassion coming forward? Like, it feels like America needs that compassion for each other as well, and the whole love thy neighbor thing, and learning to live together. And
hopefully when things go into Aquarius, things will change a little bit.
But there's also
Capricorn.
There is, and there's a chance that in that transition that we may at first see that the hard side of Aquarius, the really sort of this is the way it is, this is the way it's going to be, and almost a policing of moral values, or in order to get to that bigger vision. It's like there needs to be that transition period of what was I saying? I just had a Neptune moment. Okay, must be time to wrap it up, guys.
Okay, let's wrap it up.
Shall we wrap it up? Do you think that's enough for today? We've gone just over an hour.
The last card I picked on the O card was power play. So we're in a power play, right? And it's about home, the home and hearth. So
it's just amazing how the cards always tell the story in the moment, don't they? Every single time. You can't go wrong with the cards. But are we any wiser after this session? Are we any clearer on the outcome of this election? I mean, there is a lot to look at. We haven't looked at it all. Any astrologer would bring 100 different elements into a reading.
My experience of a Neptune transit is you can either be overwhelmed and drowning and looking up from under the water and thinking, oh, I'm not going to make it. Or you can envisage yourself on a boat with a glass of champagne, riding the waves, thinking, wow, I was born for this time. Let's watch. That's it.
It's all we can do. All we can do is watch.
Can't influence it. So we just have to sit there and be open to whatever comes out.
That's right.
We'll go.
Okay. Happy Halloween, everybody.
Okay. Not cutting out yet. I just want to say thank you, ladies. And this has been a CIA global transmission. You can tune in every Friday live at around 10 a.m. Melbourne time for agents getting together with their friends or other astrologers to talk about astrology. We do hope that you enjoyed this session today and got something out of it. Stay tuned. Next week, I think, after the election, the CIA, Yulia, will be dropping an event that's coming up in November that everybody needs to stay tuned in for. Not even sure if I can say the name at this stage, but
Secret Agent Business.
Secret Agent Business. Stay tuned next week. Event coming up end of November. I think it's 28th, 29th, 30th of November, global event. Looking at, the astrology of 2021. Okay. So thanks everyone for joining us, and we'll see you live here soon. Okay, bye.
Bye.